There we go. All right, we'll play this back. We're looking at the interaction between the batter and the catcher. If you got something, if you know what your call is, go put it in the chat. I can go back one more time and we'll start discussing. All right, so we got 2-1 count, and at the pitch, and we got to attempt to pick off by the catcher at second base. Um, let's watch where. So, if somebody wants to explain what they got and why, I got a lot of batter interference. Got a couple out at second base. So why don't we have just somebody if we want to unmute and talk about it and what your what the call is, how you're going to call it, um, and what are you going to say to the coach when they complain about it?
I'll give it a go. This is
Okay,
Matt.
thank you, sir.
Yeah, I have interference on the batter and out at two because the catcher hesitated, and my opinion, he would have picked him off.
Okay,
But could be wrong, but that's what I see.
okay. Anybody else?
Alan, Austin and Nick Malberg and I met on Saturday and went over the test very handily, and we went over this question for about 20 minutes. So in this case, since you can't judge if the runner was out or not, that you penalize the batter who did the penalty, and the batter is out, runners return to their bases.
Okay. You just got to trust that Boston knows what he's talking about. That's the biggest gamble on that one. All right, so now we got two people that said bad interference. Hey, we've got just a disagreement on who was out on that play. Anybody go the other way? I don't think we had anybody say that it's nothing.
Yeah, I would say that was no interference.
Okay. So when the coach comes out and asks you about the play, what do you say? Because if you watch, right, the batter is out of the box, right? Which doesn't mean it's interference, right? Just because
Right,
not
because
in the
he,
batter's box. So what
yeah,
what would you say to the coach to be like, well, he's out of the box. Was standing on top of the plate? How's that not interference? What's your response to that?
I would say that he swung, and his momentum carried him a little bit across the base, but he did. I felt like he did not intentionally interfere with the catcher.
Okay, so there's the key, right? Does the
See,
interference does it have to be intentional?
I guess not, right?
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, the biggest argument you're going to get from a coach on this play, right? Um, they're going to ask you, "What is my batter supposed to do?" That was an outside pitch, right? And
Right.
the correct answer
Yeah.
to that is not interfere with the catcher's attempt to throw the ball, right? So nothing in the rule book um, allows for any grace for the batter to fall over the plate or fall out of the batter's box. Ultimately, they have to control their follow through. So on this play, okay, I would say yes, this is interference. It's missed a lot, right? There's a lot of times where I see this on the bases where it wasn't called, right? There's a lot of subtlety to it. I think it's something that as the plate umpire, your mechanics, especially if you're a pointer on your strikes, right? Keep your head forward and watch, right? Even if it's a called strike, just verbalize it and stay with the interaction, right? this play, like it could be like this, the catcher bounces outside. Like what the catcher does have some saying. Just because he's over the plate doesn't mean it's interference, right? The catcher does double clutch, but that doesn't matter, right? He's still trying to make an attempt, right? So he has to adjust his way out, and maybe he double clutches because the batter's falling across. So it
Would
doesn't
this
have
be
to.
like
Go ahead.
would this be one of those one I know you said that you would call this as an interference call, but would it be one of those like judgment call kind of things? Because looking at the batter, he swung pretty hard. So it's like the other guy said, he's carrying his momentum over the
Yeah.
over the plate and getting
Yes.
and not intentionally, of course. Now that I'm seeing it for the third time now, it's he's not doing it intentionally, but
So you got to give me. You got to. There's got to ultimately like you got to if you want to prove your call, you got to have evidence to prove your call, right? You're saying like so the evidence I heard, and Jeff said it too. Like he swung hard, right? He swung hard. The pitch is outside, right? He didn't do it intentionally, right? Do any of those things matter in the definition of what interference is? What batter interference is?
not really, I guess.
Not
Now that I
not
think about
not
it,
not at all, right? So there's no exceptions for if he swung the bat 80 miles an hour, right? Like there's no he this batter has no balance, so he can't control his follow through, right? It's um did he interfere with the catcher's attempt to throw? And that's the question you have to answer. And if you say yes, then you have to have a reason, you have to have a why. If you answer no, you have to have a why not, right? And you should have that because when you make these decisions, right? This call you have some time, right? Because you don't have because this is a delayed dead ball anyway. Like you got to wait for the throw to go. Um, so like you got ultimately if you're going to just yeah so yeah to answer your question, yes, it's a judgment call, right? But you should have a is there a is there something that caused did he interfere, yes or no, right? And have a reason why this play would not be, right? Because ultimately on this play they're gonna question it, right? They're gonna be
Three,
like,
three
hey, that batter's over the plates. What's the call? Why'd you not call that? Or better. Oh, the pitch was outside. He swung hard. Why? The answers that we're talking about are the same things the coaches are going to say, like one or the other, depending on what they're arguing. Go ahead, Lee.
I was just gonna say three good words to kind of determine is did he alter, hinder, or impede?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's when you're given an explanation, you can obviously use one of those as your
Yep.
as your reasonings.
So if there's no interference here, play just goes, and we're fine, right? So now if we do have interference, right? Um, it's a delayed dead ball, and now the question of the two people that said like um who is out on this play. So we have somebody said the runner's out, somebody said the batter's out. With this situation, there's one out. There's one out, and there is it's a 2-1 count. So who would be out on this play?
Batters out.
The
Okay,
batter.
correct. So
I think there's two outs here.
no, it was one. No, there's two outs. We're gonna pretend that like there's one.
Okay.
So, and honestly, it doesn't matter. So it actually doesn't.
That wouldn't matter.
It doesn't matter on that. The outs matter for no. We'll talk about it. Like we'll explain it. It matters on strike three. Um, yeah, strike three if there's less than 2 outs. So anyway, so on this, I guess it doesn't matter if there's 1 out or 2 outs based on what happens, right? On this, the throw goes. If that initial throw retires the runner, then you ignore the interference, right? You still call it and say, so on this play, you can say that's interference and point at the batter. Throw goes. If the initial throw retires the runner, then the interference is ignored. The runner is out based on the play, and then the batter continues his time at bat with whatever the count is. In this instance, it's a third out and the inning's over, right? If that initial throw does not retire the runner, okay, throws it down and that runner gets in a rundown, okay, or that goes into the right field or does anything except for the person catches it and tags them out. Okay. Call time. Okay. Point at the batter, you're out. In this case, the inning would be over. And then the runner's returned. The runner returned to second if there's less than 2 outs. If it's strike three on, so say there's 1 out and then strike 3 on the batter, then the batter's already out, so you can't call him out for the interference. So he's out on the strikeout. Then you would call the runner out as well, and you can get a double play on that, and that would end the inning. So batter interference, unless it's strike 3, the batter is out. If it's strike 3, and then you can get a double play on the runner they're trying to retire.
What if the catcher does not throw it? Let's say he loses his grip and whatever. But
So as long as he attempts to throw, right?
Okay.
So the ball doesn't have to leave his hand. If he does something to make an attempt to throw, then you have an out. Then it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a throw itself. If he doesn't try to throw it, he just catches it and holds it, and doesn't wind up or do anything that would be part of a throw. Then there's nothing. The batter's not interfering with the catchers that are impeding or those rules, those words. He's not doing those things. Like he's not attempting to make a play. So you got nothing. So
let's say the runner at second, it was a small lead. Is that a judgment call that he was going to be out, or
nope,
or he's going to be out anyway because of the interference?
It has no bearing because ultimately the batter's the one that's messing up. The batter's being penalized, right? Okay. So it doesn't matter if he's going to be out or if he would have been out or any of that stuff. It's still interference on the batter. The batter's
yeah, on the 2-man ump, can you get help on that or no? Or the coach got to reference, appeal. If there's a 2-ump system.
I wouldn't get help as the plate umpire, unless I the swing hits my mask and I can't see, or something something goofy happens, right, where I just am completely blocked out and I don't see the play. But it's 2 feet in front of me. Like if I don't see it, I should have a good look at it, and way better than my partner. So I would tell if a coach came out and I saw it and the coach comes out and asks me to get help, I would say no, that's my call. Okay, it's interference or not, or whatever it is. I would eat that call and not go get help on that play.
Alan, what if the catcher throws out the guy at second?
Yeah, we just covered it. It's the runner's out, interference is ignored. Just the initial throw. So
with less than 1 out, if back to that, the guy had a small lead, so there probably wouldn't have been a double play, then you don't call the double play.
No, get the double play. It doesn't matter. Get in out. Like you penalize the team that messed up. So that's ultimately where you go with it, right? The small lead, all that stuff has no bearing on it. If it's strike 3, call the runner out. Because you have to you're penalizing interference. You can't call the batter out twice. So the penalty for the batter's interference is the runner is out.
Okay.
All that other stuff is just noise, right? That has nothing to do bearing on the play. So yeah, if it's strike 3, then it's a double play if you have interference.
Got it.
So Al, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So in the rule book under somebody before listed the section where it pertains to this. So under penalty, I'm just trying to, as I'm listening to you talk, I'm trying to kind of understand what it says here. It says where there are 2 outs, the batter is out. That's a given, right? That's the easy one.
Yep.
So it says where there are not 2 outs and the runner is advancing to home plate, if the runner is tagged out, the ball remains live and the interference is ignored.
Yeah, so I didn't want to get into that. That's like a very, very nuanced thing.
Got it.
Yeah, so if the runner is advancing home, then you call the runner out.
Okay.
So that is in there. So if the runner's stealing home and it's going to be safe, the batter doesn't just go bear hug the catchers to save his runner, right? So you're trying to cause they stop that from happening, right? It's like kind of they're trying to close a loophole in the rule.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate
I've
that.
got a few people. The throw is not necessary, just they have to try to attempt the throw. So if this guy falls, change the play a little bit, but the guy falls over in front of him, the catcher goes to throw, and he's just going to run into the batter. Okay, he went to put his arm up, tried to throw, and he couldn't because the batter's there. That throw, you do not have to have a throw on this, but you have to have something. The catcher's got to at least try, right? Like his intent is the throw, but he can't because the batter's there. Then it would the throw doesn't matter. You're going to get that question asked too, and that's by rule that you don't need a throw on that. Oh,
So
on the no, there's not on that. It's the runner stealing home and the batter interferes, then you call the runner out, and that's the penalty on it. Would not need a throw because they wouldn't want to throw if the runner's coming towards home. So. All right, good discussion on that. Good questions. Anything else on this one before we jump to the next?
So, yeah, Alan, just real quick because I opened up my mouth first. It's Matt. So the runners. So essentially, what's going on here is that the ball is a delayed. It's delayed, but it's essentially a dead ball, and therefore, whatever happened after the dead ball is the reason why the runners returned to the base.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you let
But
that
now-
throw, you let the throw go because if he's still able to retire the runner, then
Mhm.
it really, like, you think about it, like, he didn't interfere enough to impede the catcher to not throw the guy out. So it's more advantageous for the defense to get that out on the runner if they're able to do it even with the interference happening.
Yeah.
But as soon as that first throw doesn't get him, then you kill it. And because it's dead, you call the batter out and everybody goes, let's go back.
And this would be the same thing as if somebody's stealing from first to second. He
Correct.
just goes back to first.
Yeah, you're
Gotcha.
gonna see it way more on that play than you are on a pickoff.
Okay. Thanks,
This is
Al.
kind of the normal, like, everyday batter interference is on a steal at second base. Because you'll see a lot of coaches will teach their guy, they'll swing at that pitch no matter where it's at. They'll crowd the plates and they're
Right.
trying to make it as uncomfortable as possible for the catcher to throw legally, and then it's very easy for them not to to make it illegal. So
Yeah. Thanks, Al.
yep. And so on the opposite end of this, like, if that pitch is inside and the batter's just standing in the batter's box and the catcher runs into him, it doesn't have that's not interference on the batter. It has to be something the batter did. If the batter stays in the box on this, then it's not interference on this type of play. That's not always a sanctuary, but he's allowed to be in the batter's box, and if the pitch takes the catcher in there, then I would not call interference on it.
What were those three words again that would best sum it up and whether or not it's interference?
Lee, what do you got?
Alter, hinder, and impede.
Alter, hinder, and impede. Okay, thank you.
Hey, so there's a comment in there that we should make sure that the teams know the batter is out. Absolutely not. We are not telling them that he's out and he's not the lead off the next inning. That's on them to deal with. Because
you are, so you're telling, so you're gonna announce that he's out, right?
Well, yeah, you're gonna make that announcement that the batter's out, but I'm not going to tell the coaches, like, hey, number 10 is out and he can't come back up. So
yeah, if they ask, you can say, yeah, he was out. Like, if they ask, but
sure.
You're not going to stop that kid from coming up again because that's not on you. But so this call, right, this exact play, okay, pitch comes in, interaction happens. So that's interference and point at the batter. You kind of move out in front of home plate. Okay, that initial throw does not retire the runner. I'm going to go time, point at the batter. That was interference. Point at the batter. You're out. Okay, you're going to make it demonstrative. So he knows he was out. Everybody knows that something happened, and you're pointing at the person that's out. Beyond that, if they still send that guy up to bat, then that's on them. So B, still announce it so if they're paying attention, they know what happened, and the batter knows he's out. And beyond that, that ends our responsibility on who comes up next to the plate. Just like if a runner gets thrown out stealing with the batter in the box, it's not our job to police that. Our job is to unravel it if the defensive notices it when it comes up the next inning.
Would that be a double play, right? If the batter's out, let's say it's one out, that's second out, then the runner is out, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I think there's something in the rule somewhere, an exception where it's not. But I have not ever experienced that, and I always get 2 outs. So.
Yeah, I think it says in the umpire's judgment if there would have been a double play.
Yep, and my judgment has always been that there's a take that with what you will. So, all right, good discussion of that one. We're going to jump to the next question or next video here. All right, so this is a messed up one. This one is the interactions we see. It's going to be between the shortstop and R2. Infield is playing in, and it's a base hit. You can see kind of up the middle, just outside the cutout, going up the middle. Hard hit, but not like super hard hit up the middle. So you're just going to judge what this interaction, there is contact between R2 and the shortstop is.
And a mess.
Starts to warm in the bullpen for the fifth. There'll be another angle on this. Okay. So you kind of got to get both. Kind of got to look at both to see them together. So there's contact there, right? If we go back to the beginning, you can see where the ball is at. And that's not the pitch, it's the next pitch. All right, we'll look at one more time at the other angle. And then somebody brave enough to unmute and give their opinion on this one.
Can I get a clarification on something? We're talking about the thing that happened at second base, correct?
Yeah, based on what that call is, we'll talk about what happened at home. Is that
Well, to me, it's definitely runner's interference.
okay? Why?
Why? Because he interfered with a fielder trying to field the ball.
Okay.
So
did that fielder have a realistic chance to field that ball if there was no interference?
I think you got to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Do you or do you not?
The problem.
Hold on, Andy. Hold on. So, the reasoning is there, right? You just gotta ultimately, you have to judge: does that fielder have a realistic chance? Does he have a realistic chance to field that ball?
Right.
If the answer is yes, then we have interference for sure, right?
Yeah.
He's got the baseline, right? So is that obstruction if the fielder's in the baseline before he has the ball?
Yes, unless he has a realistic chance to field the ball. Then so it's
because he started outside the line and then went into the line during the play.
Line doesn't matter.
Okay.
Like the line between the bases has no bearing on this play.
Yeah, but, and you might be getting to this, Alan, then, but then, but then you're rewarding the defensive team because if the runners go back, they don't, the run at home doesn't count, right? I mean, isn't that an issue now? I mean, because now he's going to be out.
I think the runner at second is out.
Oh,
All right. Yeah. So
maybe I'm thinking too much into this. Sorry.
So Andy, go
It's
ahead.
a delayed call, right?
It depends, right? Depends which way you go on it. So Andy,
My inclination is to go that the runner actually makes a legitimate attempt to avoid contact. And I also think, based on the infield being in and where that ball is, my opinion is that he doesn't really have a very good shot of making a play on that ball. So I'm leaning more towards obstruction than I am interference.
Okay. So that second part is exactly how you explain it if you're saying you're going to call obstruction, right? The first part doesn't matter. The legitimate attempt to make not have contact doesn't matter, right?
Okay.
If you make the contact's there, it's there, right? And we can't ignore it. So that a legitimate chance to get out of the way, and there's still leaning on the interference side, right? If there's going to be if there's interference, there's interference. It doesn't matter what the batter did before the interference or runner did before the interference. That it happened, it is interference, right? Unless the fielder doesn't have a legitimate chance to field the ball, right? So that's ultimately the question, right? That's the question we have to answer to say, is this interference or obstruction? This is like right where the two worlds collide, right? Hey, hold on a second. My dog's being a pain in the ass. Just 1 second.
Probably obstruction if it's not a routine play.
Sorry, my dog is an idiot. So yeah, so you got to answer the question. So ultimately, right? So this play could honestly is one that could go either way, right? Based on what your judgment of that is. So we'll just say the easy one to make what the call is, right? In the end, if you think that fielder had a legitimate chance to field that ball, okay, that runner runs into that fielder, that's interference, right? That's a dead ball immediately. So it happens. Time, that's interference. The runner is out. Okay. R1 would advance to second because the bad runner had to go to first. Okay. Now we'd have, I don't know what the outs were. You have, oh yeah. So you'd have 2 outs, runner first and second, next batter's out. Okay. That would be the ruling on that. So now we're gonna go down the obstruction side because it gets more confusing, right?
But the runner on third, the runner on third goes back to third on the interference.
I'm sorry, I thought it was first and second. So yeah, so we'd have first and third. Okay, yeah. So runner, yeah. So R3 will go back. I'm sorry, I thought there was first and second to start. Runners go back to the base occupied at the time of the pitch. So R3 would go back to third, batter runner would go to first, and R2 would be out for interference. Sorry about that. We talked about that for like 20 minutes at the clinic. Nobody pointed that out. I gave the same ruling this weekend. So runners only advance if they're forced to advance. So like, if we can't have 2 runners on the same base, they would have to go. No runs would ever score on an interference play. Obstruction now we have to, so if you call your obstruction, right? Saying that fielder had no chance to field the ball. Now we got to, so that is going to be a delayed dead ball. Then you got to figure out what to do with the runner. With R2. So
third base.
So because the ball is delayed, right? That you let the play out. So we can watch it through here.
Oh, is it a 2-base award?
Yeah, hold on a second. Let's play through. So ultimately, with obstruction, you got to nullify the obstruction. Okay. So you let everything play out and then award bases to nullify what the obstruction caused with a minimum of one base award, right? So where that obstruction happened, the minimum award would be third base, right? This runner obtained third base. He touched it, went by, right? Now the next part you have to decide, okay? Do we award R2 home based on everything that happened after? Or do we only award R2 third base and then anything beyond that he is at peril to be retired? I always blank on the exact word. But so when you award bases on obstruction, it's a minimum of one base, but the runner can go past that base and try to advance farther, which happened here. So on this, you have to decide, would he have scored if there was no obstruction? Okay. If yes, if you thought he would score with no obstruction, right? Then at the end of this, you say, time, that was obstruction, point at the batter, you score. If you didn't think he would have scored on the obstruction based on, if the obstruction didn't happen, you don't think he would have scored, okay? Then he's out. This R2 is out because he went past the base that he advanced to at his own risk, right? That means he is able to be put out. So ultimately, you have to decide: would R2 have made it to third, or would have made it home if the obstruction didn't happen? And then,
just to clarify on this particular play, if you call obstruction, you are making two judgment calls in one play. If you're deciding it's obstruction, you've judged that the fielder wouldn't be able to make a play on that ball routinely, and you're judging whether or not that runner would have scored without the obstruction.
Correct. Yep.
Got it. Okay.
And you got to be able to explain that, because honestly, on this one, I would call obstruction. I don't think he had a chance to field the ball. But then I would also call R2 out at the plate, because I don't think he was only just about halfway down the line. When the when the ball got to the catcher, it was close to the catcher, right? So I don't think he would have scored. He would have been thrown out of the plate. I think he would have got thrown out of the plate. So I would have called him out, and it would probably have been a shit show, because we'd have to at least explain, right? You have to explain that, hey, he wouldn't have got here. He's out. There's a play in the World Series. It was Miguel Tejada played for the Orioles. And I think they were playing the Yankees, but I'm not 100% sure. There's obstruction right around third base, and Miguel, he just gave up, right? He just stopped. He stopped running, and he was walking towards home plate. They tagged him out and they called him out, and everything blew up. I think it was a playoff game, if I remember right. But it was another case of this. So ultimately, you have to decide: would R2 have scored? If yes, then you reward him home. If no, and this thing still plays out just like this, then he is out.
Alan, that's the base umpire's call on the obstruction versus interference?
It's kind of a shared call. Depending on what happens, sometimes this can happen when the base umpire's back is turned to the play. Most of the time, yes. Depending, most of the time the base umpire is going to have time to turn around. But you'll see in another play later where he wouldn't have had time when the interaction happened. So most of the time, yes, this is the base umpire's call. But there's going to be situations where the plate umpire's got to help with this call, because the base guy's just not going to see it, because his back is turned to it based on where it happens.
Alan, quick question. Speaking on levels, like the certain game, at what level do you make these those kind of interference calls? Is it like some 10 U's, 9 U's?
Everywhere.
Everywhere? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And this isn't reviewable play. So you really think that they would keep that call if they reviewed it? I just think he's in the act of fielding. I mean, freeze the play when they're like literally running at each other or running into each other and on the side view and see where the ball is. To say like a professional guy doesn't get this ball is kind of hard to assume he wouldn't. But he's in the act of fielding. He definitely hinders his play, his ability to make the play on the ball. I mean, look at where the ball. I mean, before that, like where they're right when they're facing each other, and the runner's in his way. Pause it. Well, pause it right where
where my cursor is. The ball goes through here. Goes right.
Right, but pause it. Pause it when they are both like right at each other. Even one more frame.
Yeah, it's zero chance it's going to happen.
I don't know. I don't know if it's zero chance if the guy's not in his way.
Yeah, it's definitely close. That ball's not hit hard enough. I think like that. The speed of the ball going through kind of throws a wrench.
Again, it is a judgment. It is a judgment call, but I mean, the guy's in the act of fielding. You know, he's hindering him. I think I don't know. I think it'd be an easy one to grab an out there.
Yeah, you can. You either way, like it would be. You know, I think it would be the right call. I guess there's no wrong call in this one.
Yeah, there's no shortstop. I would have had that ball.
Plus, wouldn't the fielder have? I mean, the fielder has the right to the ball most of the time, right? I mean, all the time, except
if he's in the active field.
Yeah. Except if he's not in a spot where he can field the ball, which is right where this like comes together, right? I've never seen another play where the line between obstruction and interference is closer than right now, right? Most of the time it's pretty clear cut, but this play it's like right where the two intersects.
Well, how come it doesn't tend towards no call then? You know, if it's that close to beat either one.
It's got to be something, right? It's got to be because
why?
Because there's contact, right?
Yeah, right. Could be incidental contact.
There can't be though. The contact slowed the fielder down. The contact slowed the runner down. So they were both impeded. It's just who had the right to be there is where it ultimately. So you can't no call this. That would be the wrong. I think that would be the wrong call. There's got to be.
I mean, I don't think the fielder would have got the ball. So it's kind of like, all right. I mean,
yeah, that's fine. You can say that, but he almost knocked the runner over, right? So there he's if he can't field the ball, then he's causing obstruction. He's obstructing the runner. Right. So you got to go one way or the other on this. You got to pick a side. You can't no call this one because there's too much contact there.
Definitely a tough call with a single umpire.
Yeah. You got a good look at it though, because it's all right in front of you, right? But I think the third base umpire is the one that ends up making this call. Which I don't know if that's the right guy to do it. Like the second base umpire is jumping out of the way of the ball. Third base umpire is kind of looking at a weird angle on it. Can't. So, yeah, I think he ends up calling obstruction on it. It's ultimately what the final call and what this crew called on this one. So, all right, we're gonna jump on to the next one here. All right, so it's the next play. So this, I'll just play through. I'm not sure if this is the play I was thinking of. Oh, yes, it is. So we'll set this one up a little bit. So same thing. This is a ground ball to the shortstop. Okay, and it kind of brings in the last question about whose call it is. But this one is just a little different.
I think it's obstruction.
I would agree with that.
Obstruction?
Yeah, but who's going to call it?
To me, that's
third
clear
base umpire.
interference. I mean,
It's interference. He's making contact with him even kind of before the ball gets hit, almost. I mean,
I think that's an easy call.
Well, I think the fielder's in his way.
yeah.
Okay, let's review the fielder in his way idea.
Yeah, I'd like to learn that.
What you got,
a little
Linforth?
bit. Is the fielder in his way? I'd like to kind of learn that.
Fielder we are going to protect that fielder, the light blue, and we are going to protect him on his initial bang right there. The runner ran him over. That is interference.
Yeah, that kid should be thrown out of the game, actually.
No, he's not watching where he's going. This is not a malicious contact.
Yeah, you got.
But let's
It's
talk
interference.
let's talk about the runner running into the fielder and the fielder, and we'll use your terminology. Oh, he's standing in the baseline. Well, the fielder is allowed to stand in the baseline. He can stand anywhere he wants.
Yep.
There is no baseline.
Well, except for a play at a bag, right?
Until there's a play being made on a runner, and we talk about the runner running outside the 3-foot line between the fielders trying to tag him. Never think that there's a baseline out there.
Okay, I agree.
Yep.
This is a clear.
Oh yeah.
R2, the runner on second, running into the shortstop F6 on his and making contact and knocking him to the ground on his initial attempt to field this ground ball.
Plowed right to
The only thing is, like, the contact happens like right as the ball's being hit. It's the weird part about it, right? So, like, is he really interfere? The contact and him knocking him down interferes with his ability to field the ball, right? But like he wasn't in the act of fielding the ball when contact happened, because the ball is not even being hit yet.
To me, it almost looks intentional on the runner's part.
Right. I'm a little
he
biased
starts out
because
behind him and then he swerves into him.
yeah, I'm a little biased because I know coaches that have coached this. It's bad.
Makes our job hard.
It's
Yeah.
And he throws him a hip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Does look
It's
like
bad.
that.
I think so, but on this play, I think that with everything there, you call interference, right? So R2 would be out. This one, R1 would go to second, bad runner go to first, and then we move on. I don't think he hit him hard enough to be malicious contact, but it does look like he lines him up, throws shoulder into him. But I don't think, because he kind of he moves his path and runs, like, it kind of looks like he does it on purpose, right?
Should be a warning, probably.
And for me, doing it on purpose, I would throw him out.
Yeah.
If it's malicious contact, you can eject him, make sure it's malicious. But most likely, this 15-year-old standing on second base is watching the ground ball. He's watching the swing. He's watching the hit. He's not looking towards where he's running. We get that?
He is, though.
I disagree. He starts out behind him and then he veers right into him on purpose.
Throws his shoulder into him. Yeah.
Now, what about the double play?
Yeah, can you tell R1?
He got the runner, so is it a delayed dead ball?
No, it's interference is immediate dead ball.
Okay, so there's no double play.
No. So yeah, honestly, I think if it was me, I would just call the interference and move on. I don't know if there's enough there. This is where, like, we were talking, the question was before, whose call is this one? Right? This one is where the plate umpire's got to help on this call, right? Because the contact happens because the base umpire is not looking back. It's not. He's opening up to the ball. That's why, like, when I showed this on Saturday, people are like, oh, they were kind of laughing at the base umpire, like, why is he not making a call and why did he not call it? It's because he's not it's not his time to look back yet when the contact happened. So on this one, I think part of me wants to call the malicious contact because I think it was intentional. Because he does veer and he it's not a like, oh crap, there's a runner there. This is a knock him over type thing. So I'd be okay with either one of them. It's got to be interference, but it could be malicious contact there. So either way, you get R2 would be out, and if you have malicious contact, then that runner's ejected.
So if you deem that intentional, can you get the double play?
Yeah, can you?
No, yes, I guess, but I think he's just I wouldn't get a double play on this one.
I was just going to ask the same thing, Alan. Could we get a double play on this?
I think there's probably a rule somewhere that probably that you could use to get a double play. I think there's some kind of exception on intentional interference. But I don't know if that rule is intent to be this necessarily, right? Like
I think I would have saved that. Like if the coach comes up and starts arguing with me, I would have said, I could have called that a double play. So just go sit down.
Yeah. So I'll repeat that. Here's what this came up in my other presentation on Sunday. So when you're dealing with coaches, always talk to them like you're arguing with your wife, right? Never expect to win, right?
Hey, she's here.
My wife called while I was giving this presentation on Sunday. So, yeah. But your wife. So when you're talking with your wife or arguing with your wife, right? They want you to be a good listener, right? It's never a good idea to tell them to calm down, and it's never a good idea to tell them to go away, right? Even though ultimately your goal in that interaction is for them to calm down and go away, right? But if you say that, it's just going to make it worse, right? So don't like those if like that sounds good. Like, hey, I could have done this. It could have been worse, right? It doesn't go over well, right? Like it feels better to say than the interaction in general. So always approach it like you're arguing with your wife. And my wife just came downstairs. It's kind of funny. So I got to whisper here for a second. And, all right, she's safe. So, on this, but if you're going to call double, you got to know that rule and be able to cite the rule and say exactly why you called the double play. I'm not smart enough to remember that, so I'm probably just going to get one. So the force play slide rule would not be. I think it's a stretch to get that rule into this one, Wayne. But yeah, so R1 only advances on this because you have to put the batter somewhere. So you'd have in this play you'd get an extra out. I don't know how many outs there are. So you end up with first and second, then one more out than you had at the beginning of it.
Can you help me just to understand why the base ump really needs to see the ball? I mean, couldn't he call as soon as he saw him run into him?
But he doesn't. But watch, right? So as you train as an umpire, right, is you're keeping your chest to the ball. So that ball takes you and opens you up so you can see, because nothing most of the time nothing happens without the ball. So you don't want to turn your back because you're going to watch that. It's not expected for there to be collision behind you. So you want to watch the ball and see what it does so you can position yourself to make your next call. So because that contact happened so early, it's like barely off the bat. There's no way he could have turned and seen that.
Right.
So that's where this is a situation where the plate umpire has to help call that play.
I got you. Okay.
Normally, on a ground ball to shortstop, and there's some kind of interference, like the base umpire is going to get that because the ball is closer to the play than it is here typically. But on this play, it's just one of those weird ones where the plate umpire's got to help with that play.
Okay, thanks.
All right, we'll jump on to the next one here. This one's
Play itself. Did the ball hit the batter in the box?
all right. First, is this ball fair or foul?
That's foul.
Fair all day.
Doesn't touch him, so
Fair ball. But I think it hit his foot first.
didn't touch him.
Did not touch him. Then it's a fair ball.
What's the rule on a fair ball?
Touching any part of the
Yeah, the ball is touching any part of the line or over
any part of the line.
Yeah, it would be fair. Yeah.
Yep, it's about as close to being foul, the closest to being foul fair ball ever, right? So then,
Yeah.
so then there's some other weird stuff that happens on this. So you'll see right after this, the pitcher goes to grab it, touch it foul, and then knocks it towards the dugout. Get another angle.
I guess the question is, oh, okay, here we go. Where did the ball actually end up?
Yeah, it's over by the dugout.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember that. Didn't this just happen last year? Or the year before, maybe?
Yeah, it might have
They
been
just stood there and watched it. Nobody went to get it.
Yeah, it was. I think it was might have been 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think I saw this highlights. Yeah. That's wild. Was it bases loaded?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, 3 runs.
He scored 3 runs on this play.
Or yeah.
All right, so fair. So
Can the third base coach be that far out of the coach's box?
that's what I was going to ask. Is there inner? Is that coach base coach okay to be there? Is there any rule that says he can't be there? Does he do anything to interfere?
He didn't do anything to interfere, but boy, he's way out of position.
Yeah. So there is no rule that says the base coach has to be in the coaching box. The coaching box is pretty much just decoration, suggested spot to be. So as long as he doesn't get a way of the throw or a wave a fielder, so he's just there short. He's just being short and excited on this play. So I think he's okay there. So if the ball hit his foot, then it's not as exciting. I wouldn't be showing you this play right now, but it doesn't matter. The ball being fair or foul, when it hits the batter's foot doesn't matter. It's if the batter is in the batter's box when it hits him. So the part of the batter's box is in fair territory. So that's where it's just the batter's box that matters. If the batter's in the box when it hits him, it's a foul ball. If it hits him outside the batter's box, then he's out. Wayne, what do you mean by has a bad angle? Oh, on the plays that if there was a play at the plate. Yeah, I think he just never gets. I don't think there's ever a chance there's a play because there's nobody there. Like there's nobody's even going to get the ball until right now. So I think
Well,
that's
if the ball did go in the dugout, the
It
runner
did-
at first, would that runner have been able to score?
it'd be 2 bases from the time of what that would be. I guess it's kind of a throw, so it'd be from the time where he was when that ball was flicked up in the air. So where he was when that happened. I don't know if we get an angle on that.
I would say, but to answer that question, since it was the first play by an infielder, it would be 2 bases on the time of the pitch.
Third base only then.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, but if the fielder is pushing that out of play though.
Yeah, it's really not a throw, but
It's
it's
not a
also, but it's.
Is that even a play?
Yeah, I
By
don't know if
definition?
I agree. Yeah, I don't think it's. I don't know.
I don't think it's a time of pitch.
I
I
think
think
when it goes out of play,
it
it's
might.
two bases from when it goes out of play.
The ball never actually goes out of play, though. It
Yeah,
goes out of fair
yeah.
territory, but
If
it
it,
doesn't
yeah,
go
we
out
were
of
saying
play.
if it did.
The hypothetical, did it go? If
Ah.
it was in dugout, then what happens?
Good question.
I mean,
I
right
think if
now,
it did goes in the dugout, it's from when it enters dead ball territory.
It just is that initial.
When awarding bases when a ball goes out of play, it's either on the you're either awarded based on the time of the pitch or the time of the throw. Since let's say the pitcher, well,
There's no throw, so
I'd say it's first play in the infield, though.
Yeah, it's.
it would be the first play on an infielder. The award on that is two bases on the time of the pitch.
That's true. Yeah.
That is unless the batter runner has already reached first base, then that it would be on the throw in that case.
Yeah, I think that's it's first play.
if the umpire knew what would have happened after this call he made, he probably would have said, "I should have called it foul." Just kidding.
I mean, it is really close. I mean, the ball is round. It's not like the side of the ball hit the line.
Right. Looked like it was a lot of.
It's hovering, but it does. Like when you see the tennis ball hit the line, the ball doesn't squeeze or anything. It's always round.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a ballsy call. Like it's the right one, and then it's just the circus comes down, right? This is just personifies the let's argue first and worry about the game next. So, but ultimately, this is just a stupid play by the pitcher and the third baseman and the catcher. So,
so would that be an error on the pitcher?
Yeah, I guess I don't care.
Okay.
Errors don't matter to me, right? I'm not
game changer.
Yeah, I'm not the not the scorekeeper. I don't care about that. All right, let's jump to the next one. Oh yeah, this wasn't last year. It had been 2 years ago because the FTX logo is still on the uniform. So those got taken off. I think it was last off season, right? When that whole thing blew up.
Yeah, I think you're right.
This is a call up guy too. So I think he's a full timer now though.
And Luis Rojas is the manager.
Yeah. All right, what do you got?
Obstruction. Award third base.
All right. We got a couple obstructions. Anybody else?
Does it factor into it if you think he's got no shot of making it to third base? If he would not have been obstructed and the ball was overthrown, does that factor into it at all? Because I don't think he has any shot of making it with that center fielder charging in like that.
No, because so obstruction is a minimum one base.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, so you have to give him third in high school rules. You have to give him third. The obstruction happens after he touches the base. So then, if you call obstruction, it's got to be runner goes in third.
So I don't know the OBR rule, but high school he's sliding past the
OBR
back. He's sliding past the back. I mean, he's sliding past the back.
OBR, there's two types of obstruction. There's type 1 and there's type 2. That would be on being made on the runner. In which case, this would be a live ball. If that runner were to go to third and he would be out on a close play, and in my judgment, that would have been obstruction, I would have awarded him third base. However, if he was tagged out halfway between second and third, I would call him out, since he would have, in my judgment, had the obstruction not occurred, he would have reached third base safely. But again, that's the OBR rule.
Yep. We also had a major league umpire not give him third base. So yeah, so I think with this, the umpire in this play is calling obstruction because he points at it, right? He doesn't think he's going to get the third, so he just keeps him at second.
Well, we're not concerned with that.
We don't have a legal slide. Is that?
We're concerned with federation rules.
I know we were just taking.
We're just asking.
I know you are, but
he was just talking about the OBR rules. So
the most important thing here is this coach is going to come out on this play that happens in your varsity baseball game, and you're going to say, "Bang, that's obstruction." He's awarded third base, and he's going to come out and say, Jeff, he wasn't even trying to go to third base." And here's where you want to use terminology from the rule book. If everybody wants to get better, just read section 2, definitions. And you're going to be able to say to this coach, by rule. Now, when you say just those 3 words, coach, by rule, you've already got an edge on him because he doesn't know the rules as well as hopefully you do. Coach, by rule, the fielder's actions without the ball changed the pattern of play and hindered this runner's attempts. Who knows what happens in high school baseball? This center fielder could throw it into the dugout right here. This number, whatever he is, laying on the ground in the red, could take 5 steps towards third, and the 16-year-old in center field throws it into the dugout, and that's what they're protecting. So use the right terminology from the obstruction definition. It says, coach, by rule, the fielder without the ball hindered and changed the pattern of play of that runner.
I agree, like use the word, but I don't think pattern of play is a rule book thing.
Yes, so, it is.
All right, show me. I don't think it is. So
obstruction is an act, intentional or unintentional, by a fielder or any member of the defensive team or its team personnel that hinders a runner or changes the pattern of play.
Okay.
It is the right words, and you're going to want to use those words to your.
I stand.
That's good. It's good. But you want to use those words because this guy's coming out to you saying, "We're not giving him third." They just got tangled for a second.
Yes.
So I agree. Yes, use the rule book, but also don't say. I'd say keep it simple, right? So this is a complete offside here, but when you were talking, this is where it came up. I'm gonna share my other screen here real quick. I think this is the right clip.
This is gonna be good. What do you got here, you motherfucker? What do you got?
You do it now. Go. Stop worrying.
Kevin, do you feel okay?
Me feel good. Body strong. Sleep big last night.
So don't say a lot, right? The more you say, the more you say on these explanations is it's going to be the more chance you have to say something wrong, right? So keep the explanation short, right? Use the rulebook language, yes, but keep what you say to a minute, because you're going to get there's an easy, especially when you're when it's a weird call and you don't have the rule book in front of you and like you don't have it memorized. Like if you keep things simple, right? Simple and conversational with the coach when he comes out, no matter how excited you are on it, right? So my explanation, right, is when he comes out, because you're gonna get the coach is gonna come out and say he wasn't even trying to go to third, right? Or you're gonna get, what's my fielder supposed to do? And
how are you going to answer him? Give
how
me
are you gonna answer that, right? And so like it's tough like that, so you got to be almost anticipating what the questions are going to be, and that's going to be the big question. My fielder, what is he supposed to do on that play?
I think at that point you're explain to the coach, maybe intentional or not, coach, he obstructed it and obstructed the runner. It's a minimum of a 1 bay award. He's going to third base. And then, like you said, don't give him anything more to hang on, because you'll hear, if you use the rule book verbiage, I guarantee you that's going to be thrown in your face somewhere down later on in the game. And not that I don't want to use the rule book verbiage, but minimize it so that you can be on and move away to the next play.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with using rulebook verbiage to
I agree with you. What I'm saying though is that minimizing it within the conversation, because the more you use, the more you're going to hear it back later on during the game. That's all I'm saying.
You can make it a definition of obstruction clear and concise in one sentence. Say by rule, coach, your fielder obstructed this runner.
Yeah, but I may not. I'm not gonna. Me personally may not go to that depth in that moment, because I'm going to see if I can move beyond that without having to say that. And then if I can't, maybe later further conversation, if I have to, I might, if he's going to press me on it, then I'm going to show him what reveal to him what the definition of the obstruction is. But I'm going to try to move beyond that first and then see what happens. But like I said,
I mean, the reality is when he comes out and says, what is my fielder supposed to do? You could say, you could say your fielder did nothing wrong. The rule says intentional or unintentional. It was unintentional. Yeah. Bottom line, it was unintentional. He gets third base. Period.
How you handle confrontation and conflict on the field it's what separates good umpires from average umpires. There's more that's the reason why I go in and we talk through how we would explain this play. Like we could have been done 10 minutes ago on this, right? That's obstruction, move on, right? But that's getting the call right's only half the battle sometimes, right? And what Dan and what Jeff said, like how they handle it, they have two different styles of how to do it, right? But neither one's wrong, right? I think the strategy is always to try to keep your explanation brief, and to lean towards using, I'd say, umpire language on your explanations. If that's you citing a rule or making sure you say obstruct instead of interfere, like little things like that that just make you sound knowledgeable what the rules are and how they're supposed to be enforced, right? You can go deep into the rule. You can, like Dan said, like I like what Dan said too, is you try to get him off the field without having to go, into that toolbox of here by rule, this is it, right? Answer the question. But that's if it's prolonged, they ask another question like, by rule, he's this, and you go into it and get him off, right? But ultimately your goal is to make him calm down and make him go away, and you can't tell him to do either one of those things. So that's the nuance of this, or really interaction you have in your life, right? So there's a lot to it. And again, if you master how to interact with coaches and players during the game, it's that's 80% of what you got to do, right? Ball strike, safe out, all that stuff is way easier than any of this stuff. And that's I get it separates the good umpires from the average umpires. Guys can be really good at the rules and not good at handling people, and they never progress, right? Because it's hard, and that's a lot of times it's why we lose umpires, right? They get sick of it. Like it's a dance, it's a game, and it's a game within a game, and it's something. It's a skill. Ultimately, you have a skill. It becomes a skill, right? Some of our better umpires in our organization's history weren't the best rules guys, right? One of them started this organization, right? And he's assigned thousands and thousands of games to our organization, right? Jeff, whenever I hear Jeff talk about rules, I cringe, right? But Jeff, if you ever met him, his personality is he knows how to talk to people. He knows how to get them to believe what he's saying, even if he doesn't know what he's talking about, right? Jimmy Ellison was one of them. Bert Person was one of them. Guys, mentors of mine coming through, not the best rules guys, but they knew how to explain things and how to work people and talk to people, and that's how they made it. They were successful. All those guys worked multiple state finals and college baseball and professional baseball. It really, that's so. We could beat the rules to death and everything, but ultimately, you got to be able to manage the game and manage people, and that's most of the battle we get with umpiring. You got to know the rules. And you
Sell the
can't
shit out of it.
Yeah, it's you. If you're unsure of something, you could just make it up and be confident when you make it up, and go look it up in the rule and rule book after the game, and don't make
Come back to your after meeting.
Yep.
So at what point can you get this runner for an illegal slide? Because he clearly slid through the bag, and he came off the bag, and he was not in reach of the bag on this at all. So I mean, in high school, at what point can you get a runner for? I mean, he clearly it's an illegal slide.
Yeah. Let's go back.
I mean, he slid through the bag, beyond the bag, not even in reach of the bag.
Yep. So it's not a force play. It's a steal play. So he's not limited to where he can slide.
So it's different. Okay.
Yeah. So like this, if this was a bunt up the middle, like a chopper that they're trying to turn to, then I think you can start that conversation. But since this was not a batted ball, it's a steal play. I don't think the force play slide rule would be would apply to this play, unless I'm wrong. Unless somebody else disagrees on it, but
I don't think you can get it, even if it was like your scenario, Alan, with the bunt, because the throw was way off. I know the throw doesn't matter. And by the time that they made contact and that all happened, that ball was way past that fielder. So, Lee, I don't think you can get that with that in this play if it was a hit.
But if he didn't slide beyond the bag, he probably doesn't fall on top of him because he knocked him.
He's a fielder.
Yeah, I don't think that matters, right? Because
yeah,
it's not an illegal slide in this situation, right? If that fielder catches that ball, even though he's way up high, and takes him out, then I think you get a double play on it, right? Because then all that comes into play, or at least you have there's a conversation around it. But I think because that ball is in the outfield and it's a steal play, then you can't that rule because it's a force play slide rule, right? There's no force play there, so unless you say that contact's malicious, like he's trying to slide by and spike him or do something, then I don't think there's anything there.
I'm gonna give him a gentle safe sign and move about my business.
Real quick before you move on, just as a new guy, could I get a quick down and dirty as far as just the slide portion of it, as far as high school legal, illegal? I mean, I know in certain circumstances, the guy slides foot first, cleat up in the air, all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
a lot of these teams are playing on turf now. If it's a spring game and the turf is a little wet, they're not intending to slide past the base. But I mean, I've seen it when my son played. They're sliding like literally all the way over the base, lose contact with the base. So, what are we doing in that instance as far as legal, illegal?
So again, depending on like you said, it depends on the situation. But if there's if it's a slide on a force play, and they still, no matter what kind of field they're on, they can't slide through the base and make contact. So if the shortstop or second baseman, whoever's trying to turn the double play on the front side, they slide through the bag, make contact behind the bag, that's interference. The force play slide rule, it's a double play. The other bases, like there's no slide rule necessary besides that, specific on a force play. There's no slide rule in high school baseball. They don't have to slide. As long as the pop-up slides and sliding through the bag are okay. As long as it's not malicious. Otherwise it's whatever the definition of a slide is. The only restrictions they have is on a force play, they can't slide. They have to slide directly into the base and not through the base. If they slide outside that, the width of the base or beyond, then it's and make contact, then it's or alter the play, then it's
got it.
So
got it. Okay, cool.
Hey, Lucas.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you have the NFHS baseball rules book yet, or did you just sign up?
I do.
Yeah. So take a look at 2-32-1, and that's going to give you the definition of a legal slide in the book.
Okay, cool. Appreciate that.
It'll also talk on 2-32-2 what an illegal slide is.
Okay. Appreciate that.
There's a diagram somewhere. I don't know if somebody could Google it and send the link out. There's a diagram that on the force play slide rule where the runner's protected and where they're not. I don't think that's in the rule book, but it is like in the supplemental materials from NFHS. So, all right, so we'll go on. I think I got one more video.
Easy obstruction.
If you get another.
And this, even though he's going back to first, so with obstruction, we can award him second then, correct?
Yeah, so anybody not have we'll get there a second, Dale. Anybody not have obstruction on this one? Okay, so in order to we do, there would be obstruction. Obstruction, like we talked about, is a minimum one base award beyond where the runner was at the time of obstruction. So that means the runner goes to second base on this, and you got to be able to explain why. The question from the coach is going to be, he's going back to first base, right? And then that's where that's where you can go. Hey, by rule, obstruction is a minimum one base award. That's why he's awarded second base. And go there. They may believe you, but they may not. But that's ultimately the explanation of why you would send them there, right? So in this play, right? What does Rizzo have to do to not obstruct? What does he have to do, or what's he have to give to the runner to not have obstruction on this?
He's got to give access to the base, but once he has the ball, he can block it down.
Correct. So the rule's the same as at the base as it is at the plate. He's got to give access to the base. So he's got to give him. There's no, there's no exact definition of what is access or not. I would say he probably should give him most of the base to go to, but he cannot until he has the ball. He can't block access to the base. So that
NCAA changed that rule, so you have to give them full access to the entire base.
Okay, that makes it easier.
Yep.
So we're 15 years away from high school changing it to that. So based on their timeline for changes, but so as of now, is they have to give him access, but not complete access. With that, I know discussion the plays at the plate, but even here, like if they're straddling the base, right? So Rizzo here, he's got a foot on either side, and he's in front of the base. Access can't be through somebody, so you can't say, well, he could have slid through his feet and touched the base. That's not granting access. Had that spirited discussion a couple times at clinics on plays at the plate. So give them part, I would say probably at least like half the base. You can't just give them a little bitty corner of it and say you gave them access. This might not be real easy to see from the bases because the base umpire is going to make this call. It's easier from B, you'd be in the B position, be easier from there than from behind the plate, but it's going to be a tough one to see. But this one, I think you could see real well. But if it's closer where he gives them a little bit of access but not enough, like it's going to be harder to make that call. But if he slides in his leg, the timing of this, if he slides it into the player, into his leg, and the player doesn't have the ball yet, that's it. I would err on the side obstruction and grant him second base. Because you're penalizing the person that messed up, and the person that messed up is the fielder. They're not where they're supposed to be. That's usually, if you're unsure on something, I think that's a tiebreaker for at least for me. I think it's a good tiebreaker of who messed up, and in this, the fielder messed up, so then you penalize the person that messed up. So. All right, I think that might be it. Nope, we got another. So another obstruction one.
Base hit, runners are going. Base hit, runners are going, and a ground.
Rivera Jr. will.
Sorry, I'm trying to mute this. There we go. All right, so what do we got? So looking at that interaction right there. Go back a second.
So they're calling obstruction because the third baseman obstructed a clear path to home. He had to go around him.
Yep.
That's what it looks like. Yeah.
And yep, impeded him. So
yeah.
So does everybody agree that is obstruction? That would meet the definition of obstruction.
Yep.
Anybody not think that would be?
Base hit, runners are going, and a ground ball in the hole.
All right, so now, so I think we got agreement that that's obstruction, right? Now, where do we think that runner is going to get to if that obstruction doesn't happen?
In Fed, does that matter?
No, not necessarily.
No.
I mean, I think he'd be out anyways, but like you guys said, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
So
Good catch on that. So since that the obstruction, you say where the obstruction happened, right?
because he's on his way to home, right?
Yeah, he's beyond third base. Yeah. So since the obstruction happened beyond third base, it's a minimum one base award. You do have to let this whole play out. It's a delayed dead ball. You do have other runners involved, so you don't want to kill it until the play ends. But yeah, you let it play out. He's awarded home automatically there. Now, see if I can get it in the right time. So because this happens, between third base and the coach's box, right? That's the minimum award. Now, hypothetically, third baseman is where the runner is right now, and that obstruction happens there to the same intensity, right? That's where you'd have to decide, does that run scored? Because it happens before the runner gets to third base. Now the minimum award by rule is just third base, right? And you got to decide, would that runner make it or not? So you got to know where exactly that happened. If it happens on top of the base, then that's at the base, and he's already achieved that base, and then it goes. So then he goes home. Okay, makes sense. I think we beat obstruction to death today. So, anything else on this one before we jump? I think there is one more.
So you say let the play go. So if they make another play on another runner and put another runner out, he's out. That other runner's out.
Yes. Then it would, yeah. All right, so there's a one to the crowd, right? They tag this runner out. They think it's an out, and then they tag R2 out, or the batter runner out. Does that run you still count the run on the obstruction?
I would think so. But then the other runner is out for the third out of the inning.
Yep. So there's already two outs. So yeah. So if the other runner's out, they tag him out, and I don't know where he started, but Guerrero, I think it was R2 at the start of the play. Does his run count then if he never went and touched the plate?
On the obstruction rule, I think so.
I would always thought on obstruction that you would disregard runners touching the plate. You would it's an award. So once you award the base, they're not simple matter is no, they don't. You can say the run scored. Any award on obstruction is nullified.
They still got to touch the plate though, right?
Absolutely.
So it's a timing play, I think, at that point, right?
So maybe if the obstruction occurs before the out, then the run would count. Maybe, I'm not sure.
I'm only about 80% positive on this, but this exact play happens. They tag him, the play still is going. The runner thinks he's out, right? Because you're not going to award anything until the play's over. If they get the other guy out before Guerrero or R2 touches home plate, then I think you have no run scored. I could be completely wrong on that as well. So.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah, because you still, no matter if it's obstruction or not, you still have to touch the bases. The only exception is if the obstruction causes the missed base, then you wouldn't award that, you wouldn't grant that appeal out, because the obstruction caused the runner to miss the base, but that not happened in this play. So that would be fun to try to explain. So, but just this play by itself, right? Then you would award R2 home, R2 Guerrero home. The other runners would be where they would have ended up, based on the play. And we have 2 outs, a new batter. So,
But if
all
one
right.
of the other runners was tagged out, would that be the 3rd out of the inning?
Yeah. If we because the play keeps going
But
until
the run still scores. The guy that was obstructed still scores.
as long as he touched the plate before the other out is made.
Oh, so it becomes a timing play.
Yeah.
Ah.
Because even though it's obstruction and you award a base, he still has to touch the base. And it's not an automatic that he touches the base that he's awarded.
But I think it would be at the time of obstruction, not the time he touches the plate on the award.
So let's say the runner gets injured and can't run.
I'm not smart enough for this. Honestly, I don't know. I don't really answer this. So that'll be homework. So beginning of the next session, get a detailed So if somebody wants to do that, I will give them the first person to come up with the correct answer or an explanation. I'll give them a gift card to purchase officials at the Wheaton Clinic. If you can come up with what would happen in this play if a secondary, the R1 would have been tagged out before the obstructed runner touches home plate. Because I have no brain capacity left to try to figure that out tonight. So if you get that and bring that next week, and you get it right, the first person that gives a good explanation of it, we will give you a gift card to purchase officials at the Wheaton Clinic that weekend. So, all right, that's what we got tonight, guys. Next week, we're gonna do the next 2 weeks, we're gonna do the rules. Go over the part 1 test for that, have your answers completed beforehand. Have rules references with them. Make sure you get all, I think it's 62 questions this year. Have them all done and ready to go. And we're just gonna I have a PowerPoint made up with all the questions and the rules references, and we'll go through it to check your answers so you can be ready to complete that test online. We'll go over, if you can't be there next week, we'll go over it on the 11th as well. It gives you 6 days to get your stuff done. The rules video is up. I did the rules video and the test today, and then I can run a check on who has completed all the requirements to be able to umpire baseball in Illinois for the IHSA. I ran that check, and there were 6 of us in the Rockford area that had gotten all their stuff done. So I don't know if everybody can see it or not, but I don't know if it's an assigner setting for me, but I can see whatever all the items people have completed and not completed. So you have to be registered. You have to do your concussion test. You have to do your harassment test that has to be current. You have to do your part 1 tests, and you have to watch the rules video before you're able to actually work a game. So make sure you get that stuff done. Going to be pushing a lot because now if you're don't have all those things done, you get suspended from working at IHSA baseball, and the assigners get sanctioned for it. All the schools used to be on the schools, and all the schools voted to blame it on somebody else. So that has changed in the landscape here. So we're going to be a little more on that to make sure everybody's got what they need for the season. So between now and next week, get your rules test done, get your watch the rules video, and get ready for go over the test next week, and then get registered for the Wheaton Clinic if you haven't done yet. Got a good agenda, good speakers for that. So always the premier training event for us. So Tim, you got anything else you want to add before we kick everybody off here?